is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DiManno. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss the practice of our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Today, we are speaking with Nicole Craine of Hands4Hope, a local nonprofit based in the greater Sacramento area, dedicated to mentoring and inspiring youth in leadership and service. Their primary objective is to enable youth to make a difference in their communities and offer meaningful community service projects combined with instruction and reflection, school-based clubs, and diverse leadership opportunities. Make sure you stay with us to learn about this powerful and important work. Welcome to the Warrior Parent Podcast. Today we're talking with Nicole Craine from local nonprofit Hands4Hope, with a vision of creating a community of civic-minded and socially responsible citizens for generations to come by inspiring and empowering youth in leadership and service. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be here and just talk with you today. I'm really excited to share about Hands4Hope and what we do in the community.
Yeah. So we, Marci and I met Nicole and Jennifer. I don't know, because it's been, maybe 3 years ago now.
That sounds about right, I think. Yeah.
And we've been able to do some really beautiful work with them. I was just looking through your calendar, had a little bit of what you guys have going on, and I was just blown away. Like, to look at what you have on your calendar versus the number of people that you have working is like, that's amazing. That is like, 3 times the work of what Marci and I are probably doing on a regular basis. So kudos to you guys. And in the midst of all that, you got some awards. And anyway, we're really proud to have you here, and we're grateful for you taking some time in your busy schedule. So that being said, go ahead and tell us a little bit more about your story and kind of how you came to Hands4Hope, or how you met Jennifer, perhaps. I keep referring to Jennifer, who's the CEO of the company, correct? Or president?
She's the founder and executive director.
Yeah. Founder and executive director. Okay. So tell us a little bit about that, and then you can go on about Hands4Hope and what you guys are up to.
Yeah. So actually I started my career in public education. So I worked in public education for 16 years. Really started thinking I was going to be a classroom teacher. And what I found pretty quickly was that I had skills really to, manage and create programs that helped youth on a larger scale. So I could really see my strengths, in that area versus just, I'm going to say just helping 30 kids in a classroom, but I really thought that I could apply my skills on a larger scale. And so I found myself kind of weaving through this unique path in a public school district, a large district, where I oversaw programs in the prevention realm, which was like tobacco use, alcohol, drug use prevention, and then also in the academic realm of intervention. And so I ran programs like summer school in on-campus intervention for kids that were behind. And then there became this need for after school safety, for kids to be safe in the hours between 3 and 6. And so I started an initiative in my district to expand after school programs to 32 schools, which was covering about 1,500 kids at the time, giving them a safe place to do homework and just have enrichment during the hours of 3 and 6. And so I've always been really passionate about supporting youth and helping them, especially when it came to risky behaviors. And, as time went on, I was a mom, and I saw that the work that I was doing was kind of pushing against maybe some political, some bureaucratic.
We understand 1000%, right? Like,
Yeah. And
yeah.
so really, really finding myself not feeling like the leadership and the board were in line with what I wanted to see in terms of safety and progress for youth and teachers. And so, I had the opportunity to step away. And so I did. I stepped away, quit my job, stayed home with my kids for a couple of years, and which was great. Really changed the dynamics of my family. But then then they were school age, in school for 6 hours, and I was like, what do I do with myself? And so I started looking, and lo and behold, literally a mile from my house was this office of this nonprofit called Hands4Hope. And I was like, is this? And so they were looking for somebody to help with their youth development part of their programs. And so I met Jennifer and, started to look more into their programming and their mission, and thought I could bring my skills and talents to this very small, at the time, very small organization. They'd only been running for about 6 years at that time.
So what year was that? I'm trying to get some reference around.
2014.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they had been around 6 years before that.
Yes. So
Okay.
she established it 6 years prior, and really had just expanded into what's now known as our education program. It really started off as kind of a community service oriented, always youth driven, always Jen's vision was always for it to be a youth driven organization.
I love that.
Yeah. But programmatically, they really didn't have all of the pieces of what you would call a program. It was an idea. They definitely followed a pattern of doing things, always youth driven. And so it was my charge to kind of come in and take what was already happening organically and try to make it to where it could be replicated, to help with growth, to measure, to see, to be able to, you could see by being in the program that there was huge impacts, but being able to prove that with data was a different thing. And so
Always the data.
Yeah, always the data.
So again, really my wheelhouse of things that I had done, and to be able to bring that to this really grassroots effort that was a mile from my house where my kids were involved was just such a passion of mine to be able to do that. And so I just, I started working for them and partnering really with Jen to expand.
Did you ever see yourself really working in the nonprofit world? I mean, was your organization nonprofit? It was you were paid by the school probably and that sort of thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I worked in public education paid by a school district. And even when I worked in prevention, they were grants that were federally and state mandated. So it was not nonprofit at all. I never expected to see, I always really thought I would be more in politics, going into more lobbying and things like that, because I saw the need for that. But my connection to wanting to work with the impact youth and be able to see it, and then especially my own community, was such a passion of mine that it was a perfect
good fit.
Yeah. And so, I was able to come in and again partner. Jen and I have worked, shoulder to shoulder from the time that I started to expand Hands4Hope and really deepen what her vision was, deepen the level of program that was offered to youth, and then be able to again tell that story, not just with our beautiful stories that youth share with us, but also that data that helps everybody know that it's really working.
So tell us about what it is that Hands4Hope is doing in the community.
So really, Hands4Hope, well, we have two main programs. We have our community outreach and our education program, but they work, hand in hand. And what we really do is provide youth the opportunity to learn about the needs in their communities. So not just go out and serve, but really learn about the deficits that we have in, in our other local nonprofits, our other charities and organizations that are helping people and animals that are in need, and to learn about what those deficits are in real time. So the youth get to kind of pick their area of interest, and then we pair them with organizations that help people within that scope. And then they learn about how they can help, what they can do to give back. They might learn that, a homeless shelter is severely underfunded and unable to, purchase essentials like socks and things like that. And so then they get to creatively problem solve that and work on projects to help fill those needs. And it might be as small as a sock drive, but as big as raising, thousands of dollars to help.
So this is so interesting, and this is a big part of what Marci and I talk about is finding purpose, right? Last week or 2 weeks ago, Marci and I were talking about the blue zones and how purpose is a big part of that. For many of them, it's getting up and taking care of their garden every day, right? For these people who are 100 years old. So I'm sort of curious about this purpose piece, because you're fulfilling sort of both sides, right? You're fulfilling those who are in need, right? And then you're fulfilling the purpose of the kids. And my question is, do the kids sort of show up knowing, like, this is what I want to do, this is what I love? Or do you guys really help to nurture that, to help them to figure out what purpose work is and why it's important, but to marry them with, a product or a subject or
That's a
a
great.
need?
And I would say, I'd love to say, oh no, every kid comes with the full intention, of doing this work, for, what they're going to get out of it, also as much as what, who they're serving is. But a lot of times our youth are coming because they're looking for those service hours. They're looking for a way to tick a box off that they need in order to move to the next level for them, whatever that is. And so, but what we find, and it in our data that we have now that strongly shows that, is that they do find a connection to the actions. They find the connection to the fact that they're able to give back, that they're able to support and help the organization that had the deficit, but then also the connection to the people that they're serving, and what that says to them and what feelings they got from being able to contribute in that way.
So you're giving them an opportunity and just giving them exposure to probably a whole host of things that they never even knew existed, right? Because we do sort of live here in the bubble thinking everything's just peachy keen, right? So so tell us about how you find those organizations who are in need.
So we have about 45 partner agencies that we work with, and that's all the way, we work both in El Dorado County and Sacramento County. And so, all the way from Placerville to Folsom, but still further into Sacramento and above Placerville too. But really, they're organizations, they're nonprofits like us, they're human service agencies who have nonprofit arms that are just underfunded, or they have funds that are restricted. And so they aren't able to meet all of the needs of their clients or whoever they're serving. And so we've created, Jen was very, very good at creating this network of partnership early. And so when I came to Hands4Hope 9 years ago, she already had established such great relationships with these organizations. And so we've nurtured those over the years, and through being able to help them fill unmet needs, but also for them being able to see the youth in action. And this is unique because a lot of these organizations don't necessarily allow minors to volunteer
Right.
with
Yeah,
them.
that can
And
be a problem, right?
so, Hands for Hope has really created these relationships, nurtured them, and we just have a reputation that allows us to continue these kinds of, service connection. And so it's really been great. And we keep expanding. So I say 45, but we add a couple every year, and we add those through youth doing research. So we
Yeah.
don't always tell the youth, we allow them, to look through our catalog of existing partnerships, but then, look beyond what we have already connected with and see if there's something new that you want to explore.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We've interacted with a lot of your kids at your summer camps, and I'm just always so impressed with the maturity and the leadership that they do with each other. I know you've talked about it being youth driven, but also there's a multi-layered mentoring going on within your program that I think is so effective. You talk about steering kids away from dangers, but they do look to each other for guidance. So can you talk a little bit about how you're doing that and how that's working out for the kids?
Absolutely. The leadership component of our education program is really the foundation. I mean, it's
Mhm.
again, we're youth driven because we have this peer leadership model.
Yeah.
And so it starts early, middle school youth are, they're selected by their peers. So we still have that, in place. So they have an election process, they're selected, but then we go through, some, I want to say rigorous, but some meaningful training on
Mhm.
how to lead your peers, how to engage your peers, how to be inclusive. And these and what's interesting is that it's important to us at Hands for Hope that we don't always just choose the students that are natural leaders.
Right. Right.
That's why we love this process of peer selection, is because they really can go outside of their comfort zone, and they're maybe selecting kids that maybe a teacher wouldn't recommend. But it's life changing to some kids,
Yes. Yeah.
for sure. And so, as young as middle school, and then they move into high school, but then they're still going back and mentoring. So if you come to our middle school leadership camp, you'll find high school leaders facilitating that. You won't see
Mhm.
staff facilitating. 90% of the time, it's going to be youth facilitating. And then at the high school level, we have youth that train additionally to facilitate the high school leadership training. And
Mhm.
so I think that scaffolding really helps
Yes.
growth. So youth know they have a path that they can grow on if they want to. Um, and then just offer lots and lots of different opportunities, because again, we have leaders who have different strengths. And so not everybody is a great facilitator or wants to be. And then some youth do want that, time to public speak and things like that. So we
Mhm.
focus on individual strengths to help support their individual growth as a leader.
Yeah. You you want to go back to this idea of statistics and data. Marci and I, she's tired of me because I'm always talking about the data, but I know for a nonprofit, if you have no data, you essentially have no money, right? If you can't track your success and all of that. So tell us a little bit about the data that you keep and the success that you're having, like, and how that works together.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we have our outcomes that we expect, obviously, especially from our education program, in terms of the skills that they are expected to build, on knowledge that they're expected to know when they've participated for a year. So, it's expected that every student knows how to find a need in their community, because we do teach them that process. Then how to look within that need and develop a plan for how to fill that need, then how to project plan and implement that plan, then how to evaluate that plan. Did it work? What didn't work? What would I do differently going forward? And then how to show that to someone else, how to showcase it or demonstrate that they've done that. So then walking through the steps again. So that's kind of the educational piece. But what we also know is that they're building skills in communication and collaboration because they have to work collectively together.
Yes.
We know that they're getting a connection and a sense of purpose, like you've already talked about, that they feel a sense of belonging, and that they feel like their voice is being heard. And if you look at data, especially like California Healthy Kids Survey data, which in El Dorado County specifically, I'm familiar with some of the deficits we really see is in engagement and specifically in the areas of youth voice. They don't feel they're reporting, 30 or more % of kids are reporting that they don't have a say in what goes on at school. And they don't have a connection with school rules and classroom rules and things like that. And so when it comes to engagement, it's hard to engage kids if they don't feel like they have a stake in it.
Right.
And so what we see in Hands4Hope is that youth-driven piece, that part where they get to have the say in the project, what we're doing, how we're doing it, really leads to that engagement piece.
It's so empowering too for them to identify needs and then actually take steps, to meet the need, see that they can make a difference, because I think a lot of us these days can feel powerless. And, perhaps in some ways you are, but there's always something. And so for them to learn this empowerment at an early age, that, if there is something you see that, don't look around, step up, see what you can do. And that's kind of an amazing lesson for them, that will serve them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and it's twofold too, because they're, I see this time and time again when, you ask youth on a survey about how did you know you were successful, or how did you feel about the success of your project, and they do, they can see that we're a small group of kids, and we were able to make this big difference, because we also connect them back to the agency, and hopefully they get to see it in real time happening, so they can distribute the items they collected or see where their money went, so they get to actually see it. And so that resonates with them, like, I really did make a difference.
Yes.
With this small little bit of effort.
I think the other piece that is so incredibly powerful, and Marci and I have talked a lot about this. We talked with you as we did some suicide training with your groups, but this piece about connection, right? Like, you are connecting so many different kids to each other, to organizations, and then we talked a lot about isolation, and I think this isolationism thing that's going on in the United States right now is what's killing everyone, right? Not just kids, but right. I mean, I hate to be so blunt about it, but we know this is really true. And so, I think that piece on connection is as powerful as anything that you're doing.
Absolutely. And it's, we do, we talked about, kind of being in our bubble here, and we definitely are, but we also have youth who are, what's amazing to me is I've worked with youth who have received the very services that they are helping to provide to the community. So I've actually worked alongside youth who were in transitional housing, experiencing homelessness, who were actually serving food to family members at the upper room. And the sense of empowerment that they got from being able to give back, like, they had the opportunity to give back because they had been receiving so much.
Wow.
And I've seen that a couple, more than a couple of times where, it's one of those things where you kind of feel as an adult going in, like, how do you handle this? How do you handle this youth who is, is receiving these services, who's then also now working on this project to give back. And it's
Yeah.
been some of the most eye-opening work I've seen, because it's like they can do something. They can
Yeah.
contribute to their community.
That's
And
definitely something that we've seen when we look at mental health. The things that can contribute to improved mental health is service. And so finding, kids finding this out young and then having that opportunity is really kind of amazing. And then also that second piece of hopefully destigmatizing the need, because there's a lot of need right now, even in our bubble, but across our state and this country, there's a lot of need right now. So finding ways to help alleviate that and just connect us, humanize each other, and see our connection and our oneness.
Yeah.
That's really good work.
yeah,
That's
and
good work.
I think that's a huge part of it too, is that it empowers them to the degree that they are comfortable with sharing with their peers.
Yes.
Like, I'm going through this, and so then their
Yes.
peers get to see, okay, this is real. Like, this is my peer. This is who I go to school with, and they're
Yes.
going through this.
Yeah.
So it brings it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. Brings it full circle, right? So, we are doing the Warrior Parent podcast, and I know you're a parent. And so you're seeing things from both perspectives, right? From doing this purposeful work and from being a mom. So tell us a little bit about your being a mom and perhaps what you do to be a parent, a warrior parent.
So I am a mom. I have a 16-year-old son, and I have a 19-year-old daughter. And I think that, I see, at home, what I see with the youth that I work with, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety in our youth. And so, really digging into where does that come from? And I do think a lot of it comes from the disconnection that you talked about.
Yes.
Kind of, that they're in an alternate reality a lot of the time. And so how do you ground them? And so
Yeah.
as a parent, like grounding them, in helping them, not pushing them, but helping them, remember some of the things that, lessen their anxiety, some of the things that they enjoy doing, so they can kind of get out of their head, reminding to take some time. And I do that with our youth in Hands4Hope too. It's really important to us. We have these high level leaders that we work with them on, time management and self-care. And so I
Yes.
that in both work and at home.
Yeah. So you have one in college then?
I do. I have my
Yeah.
daughter is in college. She's in her
Yeah.
second year. And then I have my son who is a junior. And it's been a huge transition to, go from a 2-child house to a 1, and then have an adult child, and to help
Yeah.
support them on that journey when they're not, near you, and they have to, adult, on their own. And so, I try as a parent to, again, just be the sounding board, and to be that, safe place for them to talk through things, and help remind them of again, who they are, their authenticity, which I think helps ground them so that they can make good decisions, on their own. I try not to, I've always approached parenting as developing humans, and not raising kids. And so wants for them to be able to make their own decision.
Yeah.
But I do believe that it's my job to guide them, and to, again, help remind them of some of their strengths and some of the areas where they need to take breaks. And so I try to do that as much as I can, letting them make the ultimate decision most of the time.
Yeah, I have a kid in college at Folsom Lake, and I do find a lot of what I do is reminding him about, like you talk about the self-care, that this isn't life or death stuff always, that, that it's going to be okay. He tends to be very anxious about all of the requirements and what if I don't get this right? And he's a kind of a perfectionist in some ways, but yeah, just reminding him, trying to help him keep perspective. And they get so much in school. I think of how important this all is, and you're going to need this and this and this. And I don't, sometimes with some kids, not with all kids. I know some kids need that, but some kids do not need that. And they get so stressed. And so you have to counterbalance it with, yes, it's okay. And, this isn't, the grade you get in your English class freshman year is not going to determine the rest of your life, contrary to what you may have been told.
Well, and I worked with a youth several years ago. I don't know, five or so years ago, and I will never forget. She was very, kind of high achieving, but also had parents that were, were really pushing for success for her. Wanted obviously the best for her, and
Right.
she just, all of the AP classes you could take, all of the extracurriculars you could do, all of the things. And then during college application, she was just stressed out. And I remember just asking her, like, how are you doing? And she was like, this is the most stressful. And then when it came time for her to make selections, she didn't get into any of the schools, any of her dream schools. And she just kind of broke down. She was not an emotional kid, but she did kind of break down and just said, I feel like I've been lied to.
Yes.
I feel
they
like I've
have.
been
They
lied
have been lied to.
She said, my whole life, I feel like if I was told to do A, B, and C, and then I would get what I wanted. I'd get
Yes.
into this school. This is the path I would be on. And
Yeah.
none of that happened. I mean, she did all A, B, and C, but none of the outcomes happened the way that she was told that it would happen. And so it was devastating to her.
Mm-hmm.
And that just has stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. And then, as a safe adult to be around other kids to say, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was at the local college, and the group called Challenge Success had been hired to come and have a conversation, and they had done a lot of due diligence around the kids and the number of, and in fact, that's how we started all this. They were talking about the number of kids who had anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation, and the numbers blew me away. It was an auditorium full of parents, and they basically, and these folks, of course, from Palo Alto, and they're basically saying, parents, like, you need to back off. Like, only 0.5% of the kids in this school will go to a Stanford, or right. And so stop. It's like, stop the pushing, right? And so I find that fascinating. You were telling the story about how the kids showed up, right? So it was a little bit of bait and switch, because they thought they were coming there to get some extra credit because they needed that for their applications, and meanwhile they're all stressed out. But what you ultimately teach them is something very different, right? It's not about, oh, push because you're going to get a whole bunch of units here and we need you to do this and yada yada yada, right? They're finding their purpose. You're teaching them how to take a breath. You're teaching them how to be in community and to serve. And so it is a little bait and switch, and they should feel like they're lied to, because they are, in my opinion. They are, right?
For sure.
So yeah, it's an interesting world we're living in, raising kids right now, and that's why we feel it's so important to share your story and the beautiful work that you guys are
We
doing.
love the work that you're doing. I want to just share a couple of these numbers that I saw on your website. This is for your 21-22 year, but over 10,000 total individuals served in the community, almost 10,000 total hours served by youth, 227 youth organizations, outreaches, and projects funded and completed, and over $25,000 in value of school supplies collected and distributed to 437 kids. And that is amazing. That's some really fantastic work. That's that's the stuff that matters. That's the lives being touched. And that's, the people receiving, but we know that all these kids in your program who are doing this giving are being hugely blessed by it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for all that you guys do. We're so grateful for you. And if anybody wants to learn more about Hands for Hope, and it's Hands for the number 4 Hope, they can look you up on your website, right? Which is hands4hope.org.
Youth.org.
Oh, hands4hopeyouth.org. Wonderful. And if you're in the area and you have kids that maybe you think could be served by joining this organization, encourage you to look them up. It's a fantastic organization. And I really think these kids, with all the good they're doing, they have no idea how much good they're receiving from this program.
Thank you, Marci.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
And now for a moment about meditation and how it can help you and your family to self-regulate and mindfully return to a place of calm and centeredness. Our Cour Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. Meditation is just one of these powerful tools, and through a special partnership with Donna Appadone, we've created a group of meditations available only on our platform and via Donna's own website. Here's Donna.
Mortal, tragic. Those words were at opposite ends of a word search puzzle, and that's where they should stay, at opposite ends. I am mortal. I am not tragic. Mortal means I will live and I will die. I will live fully until I die. Hi, I'm Donna Appadone, and I'm the person who writes and produces meditations for this podcast and for the Cour Experience website. Have you ever heard someone self-identify as a loser or a jerk or an idiot? Maybe you've even heard those words come out of your mouth about yourself. Well, an old teacher of mine used to say, just stop it. And that's good advice. Because even though there are maybe some things about yourself you don't like, there's an awful lot of good about you too. Words have power. So why not focus on the words that tell the good part of yourself? You're hopeful, you're lucky, you might even inspire other people. Remind yourself of those things. That list of how wonderful you are really does go on and on. Those powerful words go on and on. Use them for yourself and maybe help someone else to use them about themselves. That would be good too. Remember, whatever is happening in your life, you can do anything you set your mind to do. While I am here, I spread love and cheer and light. I see the best in everyone. Because I can, because I choose, because I am. I am mortal. I have a deadline. I have an expiration date. I live as if I might die, because I will. I am mortal. And so I live.
Donna's book, called Drive Time Meditations, is a collection of 183 of her purpose-driven motivators. Drive Time Meditations is available on Amazon.
Thank you for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast. You can find us at coreexperience.org. You can find out more about today's guest and Hands4Hope by visiting hands4hopeyouth.org. And that's hands 4 hope. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in the community.
Our meditation segment is produced by Donna Appadone with music from Scott Holmes. The full collection of meditations is in Donna's book, Drive Time Meditations, available on Amazon and at donnaappadone.com. Thanks to Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, producers, or the financial supporters. I'm Debbie DiManno.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. The Warrior Parent Podcast is a production of Cour Experience.